You saying all of that made me realize. So let's just say I've got a Spotify account. I'm paying a monthly subscription. I'm never going to possibly listen to music 24/7. It's really a similar pricing strategy to Planet Fitness. So Planet
Right.
Fitness wants to sell memberships. They want that $10 a month recurring revenue. There's no way every human that signs up is going to be in the gym all the time. So like you said, it's like, okay, I can kind of understand the Planet Fitness model relative to an outpatient orthopedic PT clinic. And then I can kind of understand the Spotify model to a Planet Fitness model. We're getting closer. One of the things that keeps coming back to me for the therapist that doesn't want to go virtual, because I know a lot of them are resistant to it. A lot of them don't want to do that. Um, I think back to early 2000s when I first got into physical therapy and I was a business owner and I was looking at this. And back then I remember thinking to myself, okay, so if I'm going to get paid the most per interaction for an evaluation, and then reimbursements then going to decline for follow-up care, how can I do this so that I leverage and optimize the evaluations, but then is there something better I can do for follow-up care? Is there something that is good enough, right? Listening on the radio was good enough for most people. And then some of the people wanted, like, I want on demand. So I'm going to pay the dollar to buy the song to get it. And then, of course, at the fringe, you've got people who will pay $1 million to have Taylor Swift come and sing at their child's birthday party.
Right.
But I think when I look at old models and I'm like, well, if I optimize the therapist time for evaluations, and I know evaluations are an untimed code, and I know that I'm treating an outpatient orthopedic, relatively high functioning population. They're driving themselves, bathing themselves, dressing and grooming and sleeping, and they're just dealing with these nuisance conditions that have been developing over time. Why do I not see more therapists, more business owners say, I'm going to reserve the therapist time for what the therapist does best: the evaluation, the assessment, synthesizing the information, looking for those red flags, looking for the hidden cause, the root cause of the problem. And then the therapist is going to create the treatment plan that doesn't have to be delivered by the therapist every time.
Right.
And for $100 a month, unlimited therapy, the client can come in 5 days a week. They probably won't, but they can. That's kind of the model that we've always run. I continue to pay PTs and PTAs to deliver that model, even though it doesn't need a PT or a PTA. And so I bring the cost of care down. I can maintain the live element, in-person element. It doesn't have to be a virtual program. I can optimize the clinician's time for the highest value service we can deliver to a third-party payer. If the individual wants to pay out of pocket because they do want the therapist, they want that next level up kind of service, they can pay for it. I just don't see that happening at scale right now.
All right, so let's review. I want to make sure I understand, the audience understand. You're saying, and I agree with you, I think, the PT's biggest bang for their buck, and not minute because it's not a timed code, is the evaluation, right?
Yeah.
A PTA or a tech can't do an evaluation, right, legally, or
Right.
bill for it. So you're saying, well, if the PTs can do that, let's fill them up with evals. You're an evaluation machine, right? And then based on that evaluation, that diagnosis, that plan of care is then created by the PT, and then not handed off, but explained to their team member, their partner, their PTA with the patient. Okay, from here you do this. And you're saying, I understand what we can deliver, that if the person values coming in 5 days a week, that's not economically feasible. The insurance company is going to pay for it. And if I'm going to charge you for that PT's one-on-one time, the cost is too much. So at a lower rate, at a subscription model like Apple Music, you can pay $500 a month, come in as many times as you want, knowing that there's a bell curve. Some people are going to just absolutely abuse it, right? They're going to come in 10 times a month, twice a day. Some people are never going to come in, and most of the people are going to fall in the middle of that bell curve, and they're going to come in 2 to 3 times a week. I'm making these numbers up. But
Yeah.
is the PT still in the clinic when they're coming for their third follow-up with the PTA? And could they bend their ear for a minute or just get a quick aside with them?
I would take it another step and I would say the PT, and at least I'm using my biases in this example. Like my passion is not to count 10 reps, right? And I know most of the people watching this, they're the same way. Like they want to analyze and they want to critique and they want to improve. But the idea is if I'm going to deliver a good enough product that's going to get improvement and all of those things, me as the PT, I do the evaluation. I love being an evaluation machine. I'm sorry, but I do. I can generate $1,000 an hour being an evaluation machine. And I feel like it gives me the most reward for the time and the knowledge and the experience that I've cultivated over my life. But that being said, potentially you're looking at levels of membership, $100 a month. There doesn't have to be a PT on site. It's not billable through insurance. There's an individual in the clinic that I've trained, that I've educated to carry out my recommended protocol for a person that doesn't need direct supervision. This is that classic individual that just needs to do the reps. They need to work out. They're not going to see gains in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. They just need to keep working at it. So I can hire somebody that's not licensed, that is not delivering, quote, skilled care, and it's not billable to insurance, but they're an amazing person. They're great at telling jokes and socializing and connecting with the consumer. Then at the next level, maybe it is a PT or a PTA who's delivering the services. But at the highest level, yeah, the PT is the project manager. The project is the plan of care. I'm going to utilize the resources that I've pulled together to find that sweet spot of value. The sweet spot of value is the price is 1/10 of what it's worth. It's worth $1,000. I'm going to charge $100. Can I do that at scale? And can I do that profitably? And can I deliver an experience that exceeds the client's expectation? I think all of those boxes can be checked right now. I think we all have the capacity to do it. And at the end of the day, it makes the therapist's time more profitable, which means they don't have to see as many patients. They don't have to work as hard. You know, historically, we would use that model, not us, but therapists would use that model. They bill for techs to deliver therapy inappropriately, and they would do it and burn the heck out of their therapist. Their therapist would be seeing 60, 70 visits a week. I think we reinvent the model. We innovate on what we know is effective, but we make it better. That's the easiest way for me to say it.
Well, then how do we learn? I mean, you know, I've been taking my dad to a lot of doctor's appointments, and if you look at the doctor, similarly to a doctor of physical therapy, do you think my dad's doctor, who's a fantastic woman, by the way, great manner, great personality, great clinically, my dad loves her, and he doesn't love a lot of people, but he loves her, right? So do you think she's giving him any injections? Do you think she's checking blood pressure? Do I think she could give injections or give blood pressure or hand my dad medication? Absolutely. Does she? No, she's there maximizing her time. When she's in front of my dad, the only thing she has to work or think about is what I'm hearing since last time, what you're telling me is going well, needs to be fixed. And then she's a project manager. And I think that's a way for her to be most efficient. She understands her role on the team. She's the team captain, right? According to, you know, me and my dad anyway. And then she has a well-trained team around her that's able to deliver that.
So let's run some very simple math. And you guys will see me, but I'm going to pull up a calculator because I can't do public math. Here in Ohio, typical Medicare covered initial evaluation, low complexity, reimburses about $96, $98. So let's just say $100.
Okay. I'll do the math for you. $100. Go.
Okay. 20-minute commitment. I could do 3 an hour easily. Remember, this is low complexity. Look at the requirements for a low complexity evaluation. This is your typical Medicare beneficiary who's golfing on the weekends. They're socializing. They're going to church. They're doing everything. They just have a little shoulder pain. They have a kink in their neck. They have a hitch. What is it? A hitch in their giddy up. Something like that.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, you know, I want to get this taken care of before it gets worse. This is not the most complex neuro case that has cardiac complications and falling twice a week. This is a very simple case to treat. I could do 3 an hour. That's $300 an hour. I could do 10 hours committed to that a week. That's $3,000 a week. 50 weeks a year. That's $150,000 just doing that. Now, from there, that's 10 hours of my time a week. That leaves me 30 hours if I was willing to work a 40-hour week. That's a whole lot of extra time to do anything that I want to do, anything that I enjoy, like have, experiences that maybe I wouldn't otherwise have. And of course, if we double it and we take it to 300,000 because I'm working 20 hours a week, that extra 150,000, I can build a pretty good team to deliver the protocols that don't need a lot of complexity and medical supervision. I can hire great people for an extra 150,000 in revenue that can deliver better patient care. And that's not counting the $100 a month that would be paid by the consumer if they wanted to do a month of this kind of, post-evaluation protocol.
Right. Now, hold on a second. The people on the other side might say, but I like spending an hour one-on-one care with my patient.
Yeah.
I like doing that. You
Yeah.
said, listen, I have no problem being an eval machine. I think there are people who agree with you, but some people say our profession is built on the fact that we get the most time, we build this relationship. What would you say to that?
I would say, you know what? I like eating chocolate cake too. I like going on vacation. I love fishing. Like those are awesome things. Like you love the hour with your patient. You love building the connection rapport. You love all of those things. Awesome. Those are selfish desires that we should fulfill and we should honor and we should recognize. But as soon as you start with I love, we stop right there. Like that is what you want. That is the fulfillment you are seeking. And back to one more time, if I'm generating 150,000 in 10 hours a week of work, you can do all the stuff you love in the other 30 hours. Like that's my whole point here is everybody wants to take it to the extreme. The extreme is, oh, well, how are you going to do that 40 hours a week? You're not. You're going to generate the money you need to survive. You're going to generate the revenue you need to live in a fraction of the time. And then you can do whatever you want with the time. Something that I don't ever talk about, but I think needs to be recognized is in my clinic, in my operation. I have never in 22, 23 years told somebody your insurance is exhausted. You cannot come to therapy unless you pay the full cash rate. I've never had to turn somebody away. I've never had to refuse care. I've never had to send somebody to collections. Finances have never been a limiting factor for somebody who wants to come to therapy at my clinic. But the only reason I can do that is because I have the profitability from other things to make that happen. And when I say other things, I'm not even talking about outside of patient care. I'm saying I can operate a profitable clinic in a conventional model. And that profitability allows me to do all the other things that I wouldn't be able to do. If I'm struggling to survive, I can't help other people. I need to have that abundance to help other people.
Mm-hmm. I was going to use this as my parting shot. Maybe I'll hold it for my parting shot.
Yeah, hold it.
But I would love to hear what people think about this, right? So we started talking about apps and the review of this third-party agency in terms of like these, replacing PT augmented, and like, remote therapeutic monitoring sort of a PT's eyes and really that's remote therapeutic monitoring. Really, that's just accountability. If you're paying for this, we have to be able to make sure you're doing it and you have to prove it. It's the digital way of being able to prove it. From the insurance standpoint, I sort of agree with them. If you're charging me something, I want to make sure they're actually doing it because I don't want to be paying for this 6 months from now. I want to be done in 3 months. Yeah, that's all I had on that. APTA, of course, jumps all over this when they see the report and they issue a press release saying, absolutely, this is fantastic, showing the value of physical therapists and technology. I haven't seen anything public from, my friend Drew Contreras, whose job at the APTA is sort of innovation and technology. But my assumption is he's super excited and intimately aware of all these different apps that were mentioned in the report. So I know APTA is excited about it, as they should be. If you're nervous about it, you're playing like Metallica. And I'm going to tell you to stop doing that, right? Metallica changed their tune fast enough to not get washed away by technology. Or they just, or they just realized, go along or get along, or you're going to get run over by technology. The line that kept coming up to me was, you can't legislate against technology. You can try, but it's going to find its way. And that was why in 2008, I looked at the world and said, I'm a radio DJ in Northeast Pennsylvania. I don't know what that's going to look like 5 years from now. And I'm not in the position to change my life. I was just, whatever the radio company was going to tell me to do, I was going to do. That's why I got out. People are like, why'd you leave radio? It looked like such a disruptor. And a lot of my friends don't have jobs anymore. Like when I started at radio stations, there were, let's say, 100 employees. By the time I left 10, 15 years later, there were 30 employees. I mean, that's like 70% attrition, or 70%, less people being involved. Because when I left, I never said this before, my last day as a radio program director, they made me fire my morning guy. That was my last day. Like, hey, by the way, bring that guy in you've been working with for 8 years and fire him. And here's why. Not because we're bringing in a new morning team that's going to sit in Northeast Pennsylvania. We're going to bring in a show from Dallas that we're now just going to plug in. And this show is now going to be simulcast on 49 stations and not 48 or 40, they just added one more syndicated market. And that sort of cemented my decision. Like, I don't know which way the wind's going to blow, but I'm not in a position to be able to ride this wave. So I'm out. I'm out on media. Now, there was some weird, murky stuff in the middle, but now we arrive at, I have a talk show in my living room right now, and I'm talking to Tony, and we don't need anybody's permission, right? The barrier is zero, except the difficulty of getting noticed is now infinitely harder because anybody can do a live stream. So you get give and take, whether it was designed or not. Yeah. So understand that the people that are going to come out on top in this situation are going to be the people that figure out how to not build a wall, but build a bridge with this technology, because you're not going to be able to legislate against it. You're just not.
Which, for the record, there's 53 viewers that are on the live stream across multiple platforms. I mean, that's just amazing.
That's wild, right?
Karen, Bo, I saw Will Boyd on here. Guys, thank you so much for coming. The saying that everybody's using, and I say it too, it's not that AI is going to take away your job. It's people using AI are going to take away your job.
Yep. Even
within my little clinic, I mean, we're using AI. There's AI scribes now. Today, I'm doing a webinar. We're talking to HippoScribe and HelloNote, and we're talking about what I'm doing today using AI scribe technology to optimize my workflow. Stuff that I couldn't do before because I didn't have enough minutes in the day, I can do now. I can use AI to listen to my patient interaction and generate an email report. Never would have done that before. The email will summarize like the accomplishments of my patient for that particular treatment day. And what's interesting is I could tell the AI, hey, I want you to, start the email with a motivational, quote, and I want you to end with this. And it opens new doors that I didn't think were possible, because now if I've got an auto-generated email that is unique to the patient care experience for that day, I can also embed affiliate links for equipment that we might have used that day that gives that patient the opportunity to buy the shoulder pulleys that I mentioned, which obviously pays me back a commission on that transaction. It gives me opportunities to build an email list. A decade ago, if you mentioned a newsletter, I would have laughed at you, thinking, who in the world is going to read a newsletter? Meanwhile, we see newsletters that are being sold for 7- and 8-figure exits. Everything has functionality as long as you apply it correctly. And so I still say it, I think this is the most exciting time in the PT profession for those PTs who are willing to look at the technology that's out there, the tools we have available, and really put them to the test. We don't know how it's going to affect us. I've been using this AI scribe for over a month. I still change the way I use it almost every single day because I haven't quite figured out exactly the perfect way that it fits into my business model.
We're still in the, I guess I'll pay 99 cents per song. And then I think Steve Jobs went up to like $1.50 or $2 a song. We're still in this weird sort of place where we're figuring it out. Right. But it's going to find its level, and you have first mover advantage now. And they say it, you know, again, I'll save it for my parting shot because I got a good one. But yeah, I mean, legislate all you want, or run around telling people it's not as good as me, and yelling the sky is falling. That's not going to play out well. That's what Metallica did.
You know, Will Boyd, I interviewed him a couple weeks ago, and he and Alex are doing some really cool stuff in finance. Like, I have no idea the role AI plays in finance, but I have to imagine between, you know, projections and SWOT analysis and predictive analysis, all this stuff, there has to be stuff going on in there that's so interesting to me. I probably need to get Will back on the podcast so we can talk about some of those things, because I'm sure he is leveraging that technology in ways that I don't even know it's available.
I would imagine taxes.
Yeah.
Predicting what you can do and saying, hey, listen, if you do this, you know, based on the code that you've given me and what I know about your business, you could save money by doing this. Or, hey, did you know that? Yeah. I mean, it's able to think for you of what's coming down the road in ways that maybe you're not skilled, don't have the bandwidth, or don't like. So again, AI won't replace you, but a person using AI will sure run you over like a truck. And that's my opinion.
And for the record, people that are still here, you know, for 50 minutes in, this morning before I got on the podcast with you, I had somebody reach out to me last night. They said, hey, you know, I'm desperately seeking a physical therapist to give me a quote on these questions from a journalist. Jimmy, I know you know what HARO is. Yeah. Help a reporter out. The individual who reached out to me, I had worked with him on a digital marketing campaign when I was boosting the ranking for Choose PT First. And I hadn't talked to him for about a year. His original company got disrupted by AI. Tons of writers went out of business, all this kind of stuff. But I found it interesting that, you know, 2 years later, he's reaching out to me because reporters are still looking for original sources. They're still looking for direct quotes. They're still looking for professionals. And it was great. And what did I do? I wrote original content that I then had ChatGPT review and revise, that I then brought back my original voice. So it was like a 3-step iteration to create the final product, but it is my content, my ideas, my structure, my name. And now that reporter is going to publish it in GQ.com. Like, this is not, you know, a little publication. Obviously, that reporter could have used his own AI to write this, but they still need that human connection. Yeah. So again, we are not going anywhere, but if we don't have the tools and the resources, I couldn't have created that content in 15 or 20 minutes and have it come out as well or as good as it did if I didn't use those tools.
Yeah. All right. We're almost at the top, almost at the hour. So what's your parting shot here, Tony?
I think we as therapists know better than anyone else. There are tools that serve a purpose. I use a cane when I need a cane. I use a walker when I need a walker. I'm going to use computers and technology when I want to improve my level of communication.
I would say that the biggest gains, this is someone else's quote that's going to come out of my mouth kind of sideways, not word for word, but the biggest gains that we've seen in history have always happened when people double down in times of flux. When there's the biggest change, when there's the biggest risk, by leaning in and actually not playing it safe is when we see people really get the biggest gains. It is counterintuitive, right? We have fight, flight, freeze, or there's another F in there somewhere, but we have fight or flight. And right now, the answer is probably freeze. I don't know what's going on, so I'm just going to hold on to what I'm doing. I don't want to do a lot. You don't need to go all in, though. What I'm telling you, if you want to invest, it doesn't mean pushing all your chips to the middle of the table. You can invest in something like playing around with something like HippoScribe or ChatGPT for $20 a month or $0 a month.
Yeah.
So the biggest gains we've seen in history have always been because someone leaned in and invested in a time of change and uncertainty. I'm telling you to do that now in some way, shape, or form. And an investment could just be your time in trying to understand it, listening to shows like this, or reading articles on the topic. So that's what I would say to people is, in the biggest times of change and flux, double down.
Awesome, buddy. We are back, guys. 8:30 Thursday. We'll see you then. Thanks, Jimmy.
All right. See you guys.